A piercing light sliced through the stillness of the rural night, illuminating a secluded field where no animal dared to tread. As the glow subsided, an eerie silence enveloped the area, leaving only the sound of the wind whispering through the corn stalks. The ground quivered slightly, as if awakening from a deep slumber, heralding the arrival of something beyond comprehension. In the morning light, a chilling sight emerged. Perfectly bent stalks forming an intricate circle, each curve delicately crafted as though by an unseen hand. No footprints marred the soil, no signs of disturbance were evident. It felt as if the very essence of nature had been manipulated, leaving behind an enigma that defied reason and ignited a primal fear deep within the hearts of those who dared to witness it. For 3 days, a palpable dread hung over the field as the local wildlife instinctively avoided the area, sensing an invisible boundary that promised danger. What force could bend nature to its will? What had transpired in that silent expanse? As the sun dipped below the horizon, the questions lingered, and the air thickened with the weight of the unsolved mystery, beckoning the curious and the brave. A piercing light sliced through the stillness of the rural night, illuminating a secluded field where no animal dared to tread. As the glow subsided, an eerie silence enveloped the area, leaving only the sound of the wind whispering through the corn stalks. The ground quivered slightly, as if awakening from a deep slumber, heralding the arrival of something beyond comprehension. In that moment, the boundary between the known and the unknown blurred, stirring a primal instinct to flee or to investigate. The following morning, dawn's first light revealed a chilling sight. A perfectly formed circle lay within the field, an intricate design crafted with an artistry that defied explanation. The cornstalks stood bent with precision, their supple forms curving gracefully as if molded by an unseen hand. Each curve was a testament to an intelligence beyond human comprehension, a silent declaration of dominion over nature itself. Yet, there were no footprints, no signs of intrusion, only the stillness of the air, thick with the weight of unasked questions. As the sun climbed higher, the local residents began to notice the changes. Whispers spread through the small town of Maplewood, a place where the mundane often masked the extraordinary. The farmers, rugged and weathered, exchanged uneasy glances as they passed the field, their instincts honed by years of toil in the earth. Cows in nearby pastures refused to graze, their heads turned away as if in rebellion against an invisible force. Dogs barked nervously, tails tucked between their legs, sensing the uncharted territory that lay just beyond their familiar world. A palpable dread hung over the field, binding the curious and the cautious alike. What force could bend nature to its will? What had transpired in that silent expanse? The questions felt like an unending echo, resonating in the minds of the townsfolk. They felt an unshakable compulsion to investigate, yet an instinctual fear held them back. The air grew heavy with anticipation, thickening with every sunset as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, distorted shadows over the landscape. In the evenings, the wind carried a low hum, a vibration that seemed to resonate with the very core of the earth. It whispered secrets to those who dared to listen, but offered no clarity, only a sense of foreboding. The townspeople gathered in hushed groups, exchanging stories of strange occurrences. Lights in the sky, odd sounds echoing through the night, and an overall feeling that they were being watched. Each account only deepened the mystery, intertwining their fates with the enigma of the field. One night, as the moon hung low and full, illuminating the land with a silvery sheen, curiosity got the better of a small group of brave souls. They approached the field, their hearts racing in unison, each step punctuated by the rhythmic pounding of their fear. The closer they drew, the more the wind seemed to shift, carrying with it a metallic scent that prickled at their senses, reminiscent of an impending storm. The air crackled with an energy that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. As they reached the perimeter of the circle, the group fell silent, captivated by the sight before them. The stalks, gently illuminated by the moonlight, radiated an otherworldly glow, highlighting their unnatural bends. The perfect geometry of the circle felt alive, pulsing with an energy that transcended their understanding. It was as if the very essence of the universe had conspired to create this moment, inviting them to witness something miraculous, yet deeply unsettling. Then, without warning, a low, resonant hum permeated the air, vibrating through their bodies and into the ground beneath their feet. It was a sound unlike anything they had ever heard, a non-human frequency that seemed to transcend language, communication, and understanding. The hum grew louder, intertwining with the whispering wind, creating a haunting melody that filled their hearts with both wonder and dread. In that moment, time appeared to stand still. The group stood transfixed, caught between the urge to flee and the allure of the unknown. It was as if the universe itself had paused, holding its breath, waiting for their next move. A shadow flickered at the edge of their vision, darting just beyond the circle, teasing them with the possibility of a revelation. But when they turned to look, there was only darkness, a void that swallowed all light and sound. The wind shifted again, carrying with it a sense of urgency, a warning to retreat. But curiosity had taken root, and they pressed on, drawn to the inexplicable. The circle's geometry seemed to pulse with energy, each curve beckoning them closer, whispering secrets of other realms. They felt as though they were standing on the precipice of discovery, teetering between two worlds, the one they knew and the one that lay just beyond comprehension. Yet as the sun began to rise, casting a golden glow over the field, the group stepped back, uncertainty washing over them. They had ventured into the unknown, and though they had witnessed something extraordinary, they could not shake the feeling that whatever had occurred was only the beginning. The air was thick with the promise of more, a lingering sense that the enigma was far from solved. A chill settled in their bones as they turned to leave, the circle standing resolute behind them, a silent sentinel guarding its secrets. Days turned into nights, and the field remained untouched, a haunting reminder of the inexplicable. The townsfolk spoke of it in hushed tones, their curiosity tinged with fear. They avoided the area, allowing the sensation of being watched to linger in the air, refusing to confront the mystery head-on. But as time passed, the allure of the unknown began to gnaw at their hearts, calling them back to the field, to the circle that no animal would enter for 3 days. A testament to the power of the unknown and the unyielding grip it held over their lives. In the depths of their minds, the question lingered: what had truly happened in that silent expanse? And more importantly, what awaited them if they dared to seek the truth? As they pondered, the field remained undisturbed, a canvas of mystery waiting to unfold, echoing the whispers of the cosmos as the stars shone brightly overhead. An eternal reminder of the wonders that lay beyond. The cool dawn air wrapped around the field like an ethereal shroud, whispering secrets that only the rustling leaves dared to share. A faint breeze stirred the tall stalks of corn, their sharp edges reflecting the rising sun's golden light, casting elongated shadows that danced across the ground. Yet even with the new day unfolding, the atmosphere remained heavy with an unshakable tension, as if the very air was charged with the remnants of a cosmic event that had etched itself into the land. Days had turned into a cycle of anticipation and dread. The townsfolk, once curious, now tread lightly around the field, their eyes darting nervously toward the horizon, as if the very sight of the circle would summon the unseen force that had gripped their hearts with fear. It was an unspoken truth that wrapped itself around their minds. Something extraordinary had transpired, something that lingered just out of reach, a riddle wrapped in the enigmatic geometry of the formation that lay in the field. The whispers of the cosmos reverberated through their bones, a reminder that they were mere spectators in a play crafted by forces beyond their understanding. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a tapestry of crimson and indigo across the sky, The group that had first encountered the circle found themselves drawn back to its edge. Each step toward the formation felt heavier than the last, the earth beneath them almost vibrating with a pulse that resonated deep within their souls. They had become unwilling participants in a drama they could neither comprehend nor escape. It was a magnetic pull, an invisible thread that bound them to the site of their discovery, a siren's call that echoed softly in their hearts. They stood at the periphery of the circle once more, the geometry seeming sharper, more defined under the veil of twilight. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and something metallic, a tang that set their teeth on edge. As they peered closer, the shadows deepened, each dark space between the stalks seeming to hold its breath, waiting. There was a silence that draped itself over the field, so profound that it felt like the world had paused, as if time itself was afraid to intrude upon what lay before them. A sudden chill crept down their spines, the temperature dropping as if the very fabric of the atmosphere was shifting in response to their presence. The wind whispered through the cornstalks again, but this time it carried a distinct sound, a low, resonant hum that seemed to emanate from the heart of the circle. It was a sound that vibrated in their bones, a frequency that resonated with their very essence, drawing them closer despite the instinctual urge to retreat. They exchanged nervous glances, their breaths shallow, the weight of their unspoken fears hanging heavy in the air. "Do you hear that?" one of them finally murmured, breaking the spell of silence. They all nodded, entranced yet terrified by the sound that seemed to weave through the very fabric of reality. A symphony of the unknown that thrummed beneath the surface of their consciousness. It was as if the earth itself was speaking, revealing a hidden language, a cosmic melody that only they could hear. Compelled by an unexplainable urge, they crossed the threshold into the circle, the air around them thickening with an electric charge, each step echoing with a sense of both danger and wonder. The geometry of the formation seemed to shift and pulse, lines vibrating with an energy that felt both ancient and new. It was the kind of beauty that made their hearts race. A visual symphony that resonated with the mind, yet there was a lurking dread just beneath the surface, a promise of revelations that could unmoor their very understanding of existence. The deeper they ventured, the more the shadows danced, elongating and twisting in ways that defied the laws of nature. The hum intensified, enveloping them like a cocoon, wrapping around their thoughts and fears, blurring the lines of reality. They could feel the pull of something vast, something unknowable, pressing against their minds, urging them to comprehend what they could not. And then, as if in response to their collective curiosity, the formation began to shimmer. It was subtle at first, a flicker of light against the darkening sky, but then it exploded into a radiance that washed over them in waves. The brilliant hues of blue and gold merged with the growing shadows, painting a picture of something ethereal, something that felt both like a revelation and a warning. They stood transfixed, hearts pounding, as the very air around them vibrated with meaning, revealing glimpses of patterns that seemed to hint at a greater cosmic order, a language of the stars. But just as quickly as the light had appeared, it vanished, leaving them engulfed in darkness once more. The hum faded into an echo, a whisper lost to the night, leaving only the sound of their ragged breaths and the distant rustle of the corn. They were left with an unsettling silence, broken only by the soft thud of their hearts in their chests, an unspoken question hanging in the air. What had they just witnessed? As they stepped back, the sensation of being observed returned, a cold shiver creeping up their spines. It was as if the circle itself was alive, watching them, judging them, holding secrets that were never meant to be unearthed. A palpable fear settled over them, yet beneath it lay an undeniable thrill, a yearning to uncover the truth that lured them back time and time again. The field remained unchanged, a silent witness to their confusion, yet they could sense that it was anything but dormant. The cosmos whispered through the strands of the universe, echoing the enigma that had unfolded, and they were left grappling with the knowledge that their lives had been forever altered. Whatever had happened in that circle was only the beginning. The mystery deepened, a chasm of unanswered questions opening wide beneath their feet, daring them to step closer to the edge of the unknown. What awaited them if they chose to dive deeper into the shadows? The answer lay just beyond their grasp, tempting and terrifying all at once. The night air hung thick with tension, the kind that presses in on the chest and sends shivers dancing along the skin. As the last remnants of the luminous display slipped away, a different kind of energy settled in the field, one that was almost oppressive. The darkness felt alive, a living entity that wrapped around them, constricting their senses and sharpening their awareness. Every rustle of the corn, every whisper of wind, seemed to carry a message, a warning, as if the very fabric of reality had shifted beneath their feet. In the distance, the moon hung like a sentinel, its silver light casting elongated shadows that appeared to stretch and contort in unnatural ways. It illuminated the rows of corn, each stalk a tower of green, swaying softly as if communicating with one another in hushed tones. Yet, amidst this seemingly serene landscape, a sense of foreboding lingered, an undercurrent of something profoundly unsettling. The air was charged with a metallic tang, a scent that prickled the nostrils and sent alarm bells ringing in their minds. It was a reminder of the unknown, a lingering trace of the extraordinary that had just unfolded. As they turned their gaze back towards the center of the field, the circle, the agroglypho, stood stark against the night, its shape a haunting silhouette etched into the earth. It felt wrong, yet undeniably fascinating, a geometric anomaly that beckoned them closer. The intricate patterns they had glimpsed in the fleeting moments of illumination were now obscured by darkness. Yet the memory of their beauty lingered, tantalizing and elusive. It was as if the circle held a key to a door that had yet to be opened, one that promised answers but also harbored dangers they could scarcely comprehend. A low hum began to resonate from the ground, not a sound they could hear distinctly, but rather a vibration that thrummed through the soles of their shoes and into their bones. It was a frequency that felt ancient, primal, as if the very earth was speaking a language long forgotten. The sensation was both exhilarating and terrifying, igniting an instinctual fear that gripped their hearts. They could not shake the feeling that they were not alone, that unseen eyes were watching, assessing their every move. The thought sent waves of dread coursing through them, and yet it was tempered by an undeniable curiosity that urged them to uncover the truth. Suddenly, one of them, Emily, stepped forward, drawn by an invisible force. "We need to see it up close," she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. The others exchanged uneasy glances, a silent debate playing out in the charged atmosphere. But the pull was strong, the mystery was intoxicating. They followed her, hesitant yet compelled, as if the very ground beneath them was guiding their steps. As they approached the agroglypho, the details began to emerge from the shadows. The patterns were more intricate than they had imagined, geometric shapes interwoven with spirals and fractals that seemed to pulse with life. Every line was perfectly drawn, as if crafted by an unseen architect with knowledge far beyond human comprehension. The sight filled them with awe, but also with an overwhelming sense of insignificance, a reminder of their place in an unfathomable universe. The air grew heavier, thick with anticipation and dread, as if the moment before an impending storm. They could feel their hearts racing, echoing the rhythm of the hum that continued to resonate from the ground. A flicker of light danced at the edge of their vision, and they turned quickly, but it was gone before they could focus. "Did you see that?" one of them asked, voice trembling. "Maybe it was just a trick of the light," another replied. But doubt laced their words, and they could hear the quiver of anxiety beneath the bravado. The fear was palpable, an invisible force that clung to them, Yet the allure of the circle was stronger, drawing them deeper into its embrace. As they stood within the confines of the formation, the coldness of the night seeped into their bones. The world outside felt distant, muted as if they had crossed into another realm, a space where the ordinary laws of nature no longer applied. The hum intensified, wrapping around them like a cocoon, vibrating with an energy that felt both soothing and alarming. In that moment, they were suspended between two worlds, the familiar and the otherworldly. "What do you think created this?" Emily murmured, her voice barely breaking the silence. The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. The others remained silent, each lost in their thoughts, grappling with the enormity of the unknown that lay before them. They were on the precipice of something monumental, yet the fear of what that could mean loomed larger than the mystery itself. As if responding to their collective uncertainty, the ground beneath them trembled once more. A subtle yet undeniable shift that sent ripples through the air. The hum crescendoed into a piercing resonance that filled their ears, vibrating through their very being. Panic surged, and they stumbled back instinctively, hearts pounding in unison as they realized they were not merely observers. They were participants in a cosmic dance, one that had been set into motion long before they had arrived. Then it happened, a flicker of movement in the corner of their eyes, a shadow flitting just beyond the edge of the agroglypho. They turned, adrenaline coursing through their veins, but found nothing. Only the relentless whisper of the wind, the rustle of the corn, and the insistent hum that seemed to beckon them closer to the truth. The sensation of being watched intensified, wrapping around them like a thick fog, suffocating yet charged with possibility. "Something is here," Emily said, her voice trembling, but it was not fear that colored her words. It was an intoxicating blend of dread and excitement, a realization that whatever secret the circle held was teetering on the brink of revelation. They stood on the edge of a discovery that could alter everything they thought they knew about their world, about themselves. The night stretched on, a tapestry of shadows and whispers, the cosmos holding its breath as they edged closer to uncovering the truth. What lay ahead was uncertain, but they felt the magnetic pull of the unknown, an invitation to delve deeper into the mysteries of the universe. In that moment of stillness, they made a silent pact, to uncover the secrets buried within the earth, to embrace the fear and curiosity that intertwined like roots, drawing them inexorably toward the heart of the enigma. And as they stood together, hearts pounding, they realized they were not just witnesses to an extraordinary event. They were becoming part of a larger story, a narrative woven into the very fabric of the cosmos. What awaited them was still shrouded in darkness, a tantalizing promise that echoed through the night, whispering of truths yet to be revealed. They felt it in the air, a pulse of anticipation that thrummed in their veins, urging them to take one more step into the unknown, where the boundaries of reality blurred and the cosmos beckoned. The air grew thick with tension as the group stood at the edge of the agroglypho, the intricate patterns etched into the earth pulsating with a life of their own. A deep, resonant hum vibrated beneath their feet, as if the very soil was alive, whispering secrets only the brave could hear. Each member felt it, a magnetic force drawing them closer, igniting a primal instinct to uncover the mysteries that lay hidden within the geometric precision of the formation. As they took tentative steps forward, the moon cast an ethereal glow over the cornfields, each stalk shimmering like a sentinel standing guard. The wind, once a gentle breeze, now howled through the rows, its voice shifting from a mere whisper to a cacophony of sound, intermingled with the rustling foliage. It spoke of ancient tales, of encounters lost to time, and of a connection that transcended the physical realm. The sensation of being watched, suffocating yet exhilarating, wrapped around them like a cloak, urging them to press on despite the gnawing fear that gnawed at their resolve. Emily, her heart racing, felt an inexplicable urge to reach out and trace the contours of the agroglypho with her fingertips. The patterns felt alive under her touch, vibrating with energy, each curve and line a conduit to something greater. She marveled at the precision, how the stalks bent in perfect arcs, their tips touching the earth as if in reverence, creating a celestial map that seemed to pulse in sync with the cosmos. It was as if they were standing at the intersection of worlds, where the mundane met the extraordinary, and the veil between dimensions thinned to a gossamer thread. "Look at this," she breathed, motioning for her friends to gather closer, their breaths misting in the cool night air. The shapes formed a spiral that seemed to lead somewhere, a path into an unfathomable enigma. Each twist and turn of the design echoed with a resonance that made the hairs on the back of their necks stand on end. "Do you feel that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking too loudly would shatter the fragile magic that surrounded them. They nodded, an unspoken agreement binding them together. The air was electric, charged with anticipation, and the vibrations intensified, resonating with their very beings. It was then that they noticed the lights, faint at first, barely perceptible, flickering in the distance beyond the agroglypho. They were not the harsh, glaring lights of civilization, but soft, ethereal glows that danced and pulsed, like the heartbeat of the universe itself. The colors shifted, swirling from deep blues to vibrant ambers, painting the night with an otherworldly palette that beckoned them closer. "Should we go?" Mark asked, his voice trembling with a mix of excitement and fear. He felt the primal instinct clawing at his chest, urging him to pursue the light, to uncover its source. But deep down, a nagging doubt lingered. What if they were stepping into something far beyond their understanding? What if the lights were not a beacon of hope, but a siren song leading them into darkness? Before any of them could respond, the wind shifted again, carrying with it a low, sonorous sound that reverberated through the air. It was not a sound of nature, but something distinctly otherworldly. The noise seemed to encapsulate a language of its own, a communication beyond words that vibrated in their bones and resonated with their very souls. An overwhelming sense of urgency surged within them. They had to find out what it was, to decode the message woven into the very fabric of the night. With hearts pounding, they took a collective step toward the glow. As they moved, the air thickened, carrying with it a metallic scent, sharp and electrifying, that filled their lungs and sent shivers down their spines. The lights flickered more intensely, illuminating the edges of the agroglypho, casting elongated shadows that danced like phantoms along the ground. They felt a presence, an intelligence lurking just beyond the periphery of their vision, watching, waiting, assessing. Suddenly, the hum escalated into a crescendo, vibrating through the ground and up into their bodies, a palpable energy that made the world around them tremble. The shadows seemed to stretch and ripple, coalescing into forms that twisted and turned, appearing almost sentient. Emily felt her heart race, caught in a whirlwind of awe and terror. "It's happening," she whispered, the words almost stolen by the wind. The geometric patterns beneath their feet began to shift, as if responding to the energy in the air. The plants quivered, bending and swaying in a synchronized dance that defied the laws of physics, their movements orchestrated by an unseen hand. The spirals and angles of the agroglypho glowed with an inner light, revealing symbols that pulsed in time with the hum, a cosmic language that transcended human understanding. As they stood there, entranced, the sky above them shifted, stars flickering like distant candles, as if in acknowledgement of their presence. It was as if the universe was alive, breathing in tandem with the unfolding mystery. The pulsating lights intensified, illuminating the agroglypho with a brilliant luminescence that made the night appear almost surreal. The world around them faded into a blur, leaving only the lights, the hum, and the swirling energy that enveloped them in a cocoon of cosmic wonder. Then, without warning, silence fell, a profound enveloping quiet that smothered all sound, leaving only the echo of their racing hearts. In that haunting stillness they felt a shift, a change in the very fabric of reality. They were not merely observers. They were participants in a grand design, a story that had been written long before their existence. And as they stood on the precipice of understanding, they felt the weight of the cosmos pressing in on them, the promise of revelation hanging tantalizingly close just beyond their grasp. "Look!" Emily exclaimed, pointing toward the center of the agroglypho, where the light coalesced into a single, radiant point, a beacon of knowledge, of connection, of something that transcended their wildest imaginations. It pulsed rhythmically, inviting them to come closer, to step into the unknown. But as they moved, the light brightened to a blinding brilliance, and in that moment they knew they were about to uncover a truth that would forever alter the course of their lives. The cosmos held its breath, and so did they, teetering on the edge of revelation, ready to embrace the unfathomable. The air was thick with an electricity that buzzed against their skin, a precursor to something monumental. Emily, Michael, and Sarah stood at the periphery of the glowing agroglypho, their bodies pulled by an invisible force toward the center, where the light pulsated with an almost hypnotic rhythm. It was as if the very essence of the universe had condensed into a singular point, a cosmic heart that beat in time with their own. The hum that resonated through their bones felt alive, almost sentient, whispering secrets of the cosmos in a language that danced just beyond the reach of comprehension. The night was a tapestry woven with shadows, the silhouettes of the cornstalks towering around them, creating a labyrinth of uncertainty. Each rustle of the leaves sounded like a voice, murmuring warnings or perhaps encouragement, depending on how one chose to interpret the unsettling symphony of nature. The stars above shimmered like distant eyes, watching, judging, their light refracting in the brilliance of the agroglypho, a silent audience to the unfolding spectacle. The darkness was no longer merely absence. It was a presence, a living entity that seemed to breathe with them, expanding and contracting in the wake of the otherworldly light. As they stepped closer, the ground beneath them felt unstable, vibrating in harmony with the pulsating glow. It was a sensation that sent shivers down their spines, a reminder that they were mere mortals, standing at the threshold of something vast and unfathomable. Michael's heart raced, each beat echoing like a drum in the stillness, the sound almost drowned out by the deep, resonant hum that seemed to emanate from the very core of the earth. It was a sound that promised revelation, yet it was laced with an undercurrent of dread, a reminder that some truths were perhaps better left undiscovered. "Can you feel that?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely rising above the hum. It was a question that hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their shared apprehension. They all nodded, eyes wide, unable to articulate the sensation that clawed at their insides. It was fear, yes, but it was also something else, an insatiable curiosity, a primal urge to know what lay beyond the veil of the ordinary. The light intensified, casting elongated shadows that danced erratically against the cornfield. In that moment, the geometric patterns of the agroglypho seemed to shift, spirals intertwining with fractals that defied logic, creating a kaleidoscope of symbols that throbbed in unison with the hum. Each geometric shape appeared to tell a story, a narrative that transcended time and space, a cosmic lore that whispered of ancient civilizations and celestial visitors. It was a history that had been waiting for them, and now it felt as though they were on the verge of unlocking its secrets. Then, as if sensing their collective anticipation, the light pulsated once more, but this time it was accompanied by a low, resonant sound, a deep thrumming that resonated within their chests, connecting them to each other and to the universe itself. They instinctively reached for one another, fingers intertwining, grounding themselves in the shared experience of the inexplicable. The air thickened with a metallic tang, and an overwhelming sense of being watched washed over them, as if the cosmos itself had turned its gaze upon them, analyzing, probing, waiting for their next move. Emily felt a wave of warmth radiating from the light, enveloping her in a comforting embrace, even as her rational mind screamed to retreat, to run from this unknown entity that beckoned them closer. The glow was mesmerizing, a stark contrast to the oppressive darkness of the night, and she couldn't help but feel that it held the answers to questions she hadn't even thought to ask. "What if this is our chance?" she murmured, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. "What if we're meant to be here?" Her words hung in the stillness, a declaration of intent that echoed back at them from the shadows of the cornfield. Michael's brow furrowed, caught between the allure of discovery and the instinct to flee. "But what if we're not ready?" he countered, his voice barely above a whisper, the weight of his fear palpable in the space between them. The pulsating light seemed to respond to their inner turmoil, shifting from a blinding brilliance to a softer, more inviting glow. It was as if it sought to soothe their fears, to assure them that they were safe, that they were part of something larger than themselves. Yet, that very notion sent a chill down Michael's spine, a reminder that safety was an illusion, particularly when confronted with the unknown. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the field, snapping them back to reality. The sound of rustling leaves became a chaotic cacophony, as if nature itself was warning them against their advance. The shadows deepened, and for a fleeting moment, Emily thought she saw a figure lurking just beyond the edge of the light, a silhouette that flickered and vanished like a mirage. Her breath caught in her throat, heart pounding, as she exchanged a glance with Sarah, who mirrored her fear with wide eyes. "Did you see that?" Emily gasped, her voice trembling in the sudden turbulence of emotions swirling around them. "See what?" Sarah replied, her voice strained, the words barely above a whisper. "What did you see?" But before Emily could articulate her thoughts, the agroglypho erupted in a surge of light, illuminating the field in a kaleidoscope of colors that transcended the ordinary spectrum. The symbols upon the ground glowed with an intensity that seemed to reverberate through the very fabric of reality, and the hum crescendoed, drowning out every thought, every doubt. They stood transfixed, caught in a moment that felt suspended in time, the world around them fading into insignificance. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the light began to recede, pulling back into the earth as if it were retreating from their grasp. The hum diminished, leaving behind an echo of its resonance, a lingering reminder of the cosmic dance they had witnessed. Silence enveloped them once more, heavier than before, filled with an oppressive weight that pressed down on their shoulders. What just happened?" Sarah's voice trembled, a mixture of awe and terror. The air was thick with the remnants of energy, and they could feel the aftershocks of the experience coursing through them, a reminder that they had been part of something extraordinary, yet inexplicable. Emily looked around, her heart racing, her mind racing even faster. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice a mere whisper in the enveloping quiet. "But I feel like we've just touched something we shouldn't have." And as they stood there in the aftermath of the unknown, the shadows around them seemed to deepen, whispering secrets that would never be fully understood. The night held its breath, and the cosmos continued to spin, indifferent to the fragile lives that stood at the edge of discovery, teetering on the brink of understanding a truth too vast for human minds to comprehend. The dawn broke slowly over the horizon, casting a pale light that struggled to penetrate the dense fog clinging to the fields. The air was heavy, laden with a metallic scent that seemed to hang in the atmosphere, a residue of the night's inexplicable events. Emily and Sarah stood amidst the remnants of the agroglypho, now just a pattern of flattened stalks and shifting shadows, their minds grappling with the enormity of what they had witnessed. As they ventured cautiously into the field, the chill of the morning wrapped around them like a shroud, and the silence felt almost sentient, vibrating with an unspoken tension. Each step they took was accompanied by the faint crackle of dry leaves underfoot, and the distant calls of birds sounded foreign, as if even nature was hesitant to acknowledge their presence. It was a world that had shifted overnight, And the girls were no longer merely observers, but unwitting participants in a cosmic ballet that had unfolded just beyond their grasp. "Do you think anyone else saw it?" Sarah asked, her eyes darting toward the edge of the field, where the trees loomed like sentinels, silent witnesses to the night's revelations. The question hung in the air, a fragile thread woven into the fabric of their reality. Emily shook her head, her thoughts racing back to the enigmatic light, the vibrant symbols that glowed with an energy that felt both inviting and foreboding. "I don't know," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I can't shake the feeling that we're not alone here." A shiver ran down her spine, not from the cold, but from an instinctual awareness that something was watching, waiting, somewhere in the unseen depths of the field. The girls moved cautiously, their breaths visible in the cool morning air as they approached the center of the agroglypho. The geometry of the patterns was astonishing, spirals and fractals that seemed to defy the laws of nature. Each line was a testament to an intelligence that transcended human understanding, a language of the cosmos that resonated within their very souls. As they knelt to inspect the disturbed earth, a low hum began to reverberate beneath their feet, a continuation of the energy they had felt just hours before. It was a frequency that resonated with the very core of their being, stirring something primordial within them. The sound was not merely heard but felt, vibrating through their bones, and as they exchanged glances, they both understood. This was not over. Suddenly a gust of wind swept through the field, carrying with it the faintest echo of a voice, soft, melodic, yet threaded with an underlying urgency that sent their hearts racing. "Did you hear that?" Sarah's eyes widened and Emily nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. The sound seemed to beckon them, a whisper of the unknown that hung in the air like a promise and a threat. "Maybe we should go," Emily suggested, her instincts screaming for them to turn back. But Sarah, drawn forward by an unseen force, took a step closer to the heart of the agroglypho. "Wait," she urged, her voice trembling with a mix of curiosity and fear. "I need to see it up close." As they approached the center, the hum intensified, morphing into a symphony of otherworldly tones that reverberated through the air. It was as if the very ground beneath them was alive, pulsating with a rhythm that mirrored the heartbeat of the universe. The colors of the agroglypho shifted in response, swirling in a dance that was hypnotic and mesmerizing. Emily felt as if she were being pulled into a trance, her mind teetering on the edge of understanding and madness. Then, without warning, the air shifted, becoming thick and charged, almost electric. A sensation of warmth washed over them, as if the sun had suddenly broken through the fog, but the light was wrong, too bright, too intense. It enveloped them, a blinding brilliance that had no source, and in that moment time seemed to stretch, the world distorting around them. "Emily!" Sarah cried out, her voice lost in the maelstrom of sound and light. The ground vibrated violently beneath them, and they stumbled, disoriented, as the cosmos seemed to open up, revealing glimpses of stars and galaxies swirling in an endless void. The girls were no longer in the field. They were suspended in a vast expanse of possibility, surrounded by the echoes of existence. Just as abruptly as it began, the phenomenon ceased, dropping them back into the cold, damp reality of the early morning. The agroglypho lay before them, unchanged yet infinitely different, a portal to something beyond their comprehension. What was that? Sarah gasped, her eyes wide with shock. Emily could only shake her head, her heart racing as the weight of what they had experienced settled heavily upon her. It was not just fear. It was a profound sense of awe that intertwined with dread. They had touched something that went beyond their understanding, and the implications were staggering. The silence enveloped them once more, thicker than before, punctuated only by the distant rustling of leaves and the soft whispers of the wind. Yet, amidst the quietude, the feeling of being observed returned, a sensation that clawed at the edges of their minds, a reminder that they were not alone. "I can't help but wonder," Emily mused, her voice barely above a whisper. What if this is only the beginning? What if we've opened a door we can't close? The thought hung between them, a shadow that loomed larger with every heartbeat. As they stood there, grappling with the enormity of their experience, the first rays of sunlight broke through the fog, casting a golden hue across the field. The agroglypho glimmered in the light, its patterns now shimmering with a life of their own, and in that moment, the girls understood that their lives would never be the same again. In the quiet aftermath, they felt a stirring within them, an awakening to a reality that was just beginning to unfold. And with it, a haunting question lingered in the air. What else awaited them in the shadows of the cosmic fields? With a shared glance, they turned away from the agroglypho, stepping into the unknown, their hearts racing with both fear and anticipation. They were no longer just witnesses, they were explorers of a mystery that lay beyond the stars, and they were determined to uncover the truth that awaited them. As they walked back toward the safety of the road, the lingering echoes of their encounter whispered promises of what was to come, a cosmic invitation that neither of them could ignore. The air was thick with an electric tension as Sarah and Emily made their way back toward the gravel road, their footsteps muted by the dew-soaked grass. Each step felt like a journey through an uncharted territory of their own minds, where the boundaries of reality had blurred and twisted into something both beautiful and terrifying. The world around them was awash with the early morning glow, yet shadows lingered, curling around the edges of their vision, as if daring them to look back at the field that had forever marked their lives. "Do you hear that?" Emily stopped abruptly, her breath hitching in her throat. The wind had shifted, carrying with it a low hum, a frequency that resonated deep within their chests. It wasn't the sound of nature, but something far more alien, a vibration that seemed to pulsate in synchrony with the beating of their hearts. It thrummed in the air, wrapping around them like a cloak, and for a moment, they stood frozen, entranced by the melody of the unknown. "What is it?" Sarah whispered, as if speaking too loudly would shatter the delicate veil that had descended upon them. The hum intensified, swirling around them, and they could feel it rising in pitch, a chorus of voices that felt both inviting and ominous. It resonated with the memory of the agroglypho, the geometric patterns etched into the earth. And in that moment, the girls felt an inexplicable connection to whatever had orchestrated this phenomenon. The silence of the early morning was deceptive. It held secrets beneath its surface, and as they resumed their pace, they became acutely aware of the small details around them. The tall corn stalks rustled, not from the wind, but from something moving within. A faint flicker of light caught Sarah's eye, darting between the rows, and she felt a chill race down her spine. It was as if the world was alive with whispers, secrets hidden in the folds of the landscape, waiting to be uncovered. "Maybe it's just animals," Emily suggested, though her voice trembled with uncertainty. Yet, deep down, they both understood that this was no ordinary wildlife encounter. The air felt charged, thick with anticipation as they approached the edge of the field, the invisible boundary between their familiar lives and the extraordinary events of the night before. Just as they reached the road, a sharp crack echoed, piercing through the serene dawn. They turned instinctively, hearts pounding in their chests, to find a dark silhouette lingering at the edge of the field. It was a fleeting shadow, almost human in shape but distorted, as if it flickered in and out of existence. Their breath caught in their throats, a primal instinct urging them to flee, yet they were rooted to the spot, captivated by the mystery that unfolded before them. "Do you see that?" Sarah breathed, pointing, her voice barely above a whisper. Emily nodded, her wide eyes reflecting a mix of terror and intrigue. The figure seemed to sway, its outline shifting as though it were made of smoke, and just as quickly as it appeared, it vanished into the depths of the field, leaving behind an unsettling stillness. "What was that?" Emily's voice quivered, the question hanging heavy in the air. They exchanged a look, a mixture of fear and curiosity, and the reality of their encounter began to settle upon them like a thick fog. They had stumbled upon something profound, a phenomenon that transcended their understanding, and with it came the weight of knowledge that felt both burdensome and exhilarating. As they turned their backs on the field, a sense of urgency propelled them forward. They were aware that they were not simply witnesses to an extraordinary event. They had become part of it, woven into the fabric of something much larger than themselves. The hum of the cosmos resonated within them, a call to explore the depths of the unknown, and the shadows of the field whispered promises of revelations yet to come. In the days that followed, the agroglypho became an obsession. They pored over photographs, dissected every minute detail, and sought out anyone who might share their experience or have insights into the strange occurrences surrounding them. Each conversation only deepened the mystery, fueling their desire to uncover the truth. They found themselves drawn to the field at dusk, hoping for another glimpse of the unfathomable, but each visit ended in disappointment, the silence mocking their efforts. Yet as they delved deeper, they began to notice changes in themselves. Their dreams became vivid, filled with strange symbols and patterns that echoed the geometry of the agroglypho. They felt an awakening, a stirring within that hinted at a connection to the cosmos, and it both thrilled and frightened them. The sensation of being observed never truly faded. Rather, it transformed into something more profound, a reminder that they were part of an intricate tapestry of existence. One evening, as they sat on the porch, watching the stars twinkle in the vast expanse above, Sarah turned to Emily. "What if we're not just discovering something new? What if we're being guided?" The thought hung in the air, heavy with possibility. Emily considered it, her mind racing with implications. What if we're meant to understand something that's been hidden from us? The idea took root, blossoming into a determination to pursue the truth, no matter how daunting it may prove. With each passing day, they felt the pull of the unknown, the call of the cosmic fields, urging them to continue their search. The world around them faded into the background, the mundane aspects of their lives overshadowed by the urgency of their quest. Then, one fateful night, they returned to the field, emboldened by a sense of purpose. The air was thick with anticipation, and as they stepped into the moonlit expanse, they felt it, an electric charge coursing through the ground, vibrating beneath their feet. The hum returned, a familiar resonance that beckoned them deeper into the heart of the field. As they ventured further, the patterns of the agroglypho glowed softly in the moonlight, and the atmosphere shifted once more. The shadows grew longer, and the sense of being watched intensified, wrapping around them like a shroud. Suddenly, a blinding flash illuminated the clearing, and they squinted against the brilliance. In that moment, they felt a presence, a weighty intelligence that hovered just beyond the veil of perception. And then, as quickly as it had begun, it was gone, leaving behind a stillness that felt both profound and disquieting. In the aftermath, an overwhelming realization washed over them. This was not the end, but merely another beginning. The experience had etched itself into their very beings, a marker of transformation that would guide them forward. As they stood in the quiet aftermath, a single thought resonated within them. The shadows held secrets yet to be revealed, and they were destined to uncover the mysteries of the cosmos. They exchanged a determined glance, hearts racing with the thrill of the unknown, and with a shared sense of purpose, they stepped beyond the threshold of fear into the embrace of the infinite. It was only the beginning, a cosmic invitation echoing in the silence, an unspoken promise that their journey had only just commenced. As they walked away from the field, the lingering echoes of their encounter whispered of adventures yet to unfold, a truth waiting patiently in the shadows of the cosmic fields.